Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, if you like mock drafts, you're in heaven this time of year. You could find well over 100 of them. You don't even have to try that hard. If you try hard, who the hell knows how many you can find? 300, 500, 800? I don't know. Once you try them and get back to me. Which one of them will be right for the Saints? At least one of them has to be right. Right? You ever heard of Jihad Campbell? Kelvin Banks? Of course you've heard of him if you've been following all 100 of the mock drafts. Is one of those guys going to be a Saint? We'll talk about that. We'll jump into it early on today's Mano E Monday. And of course, not only will we preview tonight's NCAA National Championship game, but we have to talk about the incredible comeback of the Houston Cougars Saturday night, led by Kelvin Sampson. Gabe will have his man versus machine pick. What else is on the docket? I have a few praises. And of course, what would Monday be like without a gripe or two? You ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Cue the music. Let's roll this thing.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Don't know what happened there, but where you at, Dattitude family? I had to dig into that closet for that sweatshirt, huh? I know I did. Pulled out the old Cubbies. Yeah, they choked yesterday to finish off a sweep of the previously undefeated San Diego Padres, but no! Gabe Henderson wants Ryan Presley back and have him for free. That's son of a biscuit. Anyway, digging in the closet, breaking out the Cubs. I'm still proud. You know what else I found in the closet? Dattitude. Episode number 359, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Monday, April the 7th, 2025. I am your host, Jim Derry, 34 and a half years in the New Orleans media scene, and I thank you for being a part of this ever-growing Dattitude family. You can be a part of the show. You know how to do it. Type in your comment whether you watch it on YouTube or Facebook. And if you watch it on Facebook, why? Go to YouTube. Please subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Be a part of the family. You can get in touch with me on X, Jim Derry Jr., email at jderry@theadvocate.com. What is going on, my people? Let's roll a few of the. I usually wait a little bit for some comments, but the regulars are here. The Dattitudinals. Rocky, good morning. Gary, good morning. You missed live on Friday. You watched it Saturday. Good show. You agree we need an offensive lineman? Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here. We'll talk about what we need, what the mocks say we're going to get. We're going to talk about that this morning on Mano E Monday. Mark Gapsky. How about them Padres, Mark Gapsky? Good morning. 17 days to the draft. He said, correction live Friday, if we're going to a 3-4 defense, need a linebacker upgrade. Well, that's one of the possibilities, too. I completely and utterly disagree that you need to do that in the first round, and we'll go ape bleep if that happens. Yeah, I know I cuss every now and then, but I want to do it in the first 4 minutes of the show. Where you at, Charles? Charles Manga says, good things have come to Duke losing. I mean, it's good if you have Houston in your pool and you're going to win the pool if Houston wins. Money, show me the money. Otherwise, if you had Duke, it's bad. If you're a Cooper Flag fan, it's bad. I will say this. If I didn't care one way or the other, if I didn't have any pools, and some years, I've actually, last few years, I don't always have a pool. But if I wasn't in a pool, I probably would have been rooting for Duke. Just maybe, I don't know, at the end, it would have been hard not to root for Kelvin Sampson in Houston the way they came back. Just in the grand scheme of things, I probably would have rooted for Duke because I would have wanted to see those guys in the national championship game because there's no question. Look, Houston is a fantastic team. If they play that game 10 times, Duke's going to win maybe 8 times out of 10. 7 at least. That doesn't mean anything. They didn't win this time, and nor did they deserve to win. Houston absolutely deserved to win. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Obviously, if you're watching the show, you can see what's coming up on the show on the bottom right portion of the screen. Rainy Cajun, good morning. How is it in the Northwest? Raining, I bet. And chilly. Just like it is here on weird April 7th, rainy and chilly. There he is. Kyle Sherman, good morning, Dattitudinals. Got Mark says he can't believe Duke lost. John Pace, good morning. Who dat? Let's see. Kyle says he was sitting pretty, 30 seconds left in the Duke game. 97% chance of a Duke win. Defeat snatched from the jaws of victory. See, that's somebody that's not happy that Duke lost. UBN, I knew you would be here this morning with the sweatshirts. Ryan Presley's like this weather. It sucks. This weather is fantastic. Look, enjoy it. Because I could tell you, my daughter, when we walked to the bus stop, she went, "Oh, it's chilly, Dad, blah, 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 blah." She goes, "After this week, is it going to go back to spring?" I'm like, no. We don't have spring here. We go straight from winter to summer, and it sucks. I hate summer. Not that y'all don't know that already. Scott Hartman, some regulars have to listen later. Just saying, I get you. Look, if you got to listen later, I'm glad you're live on this Monday. Maybe you're just off today. Whatever it is. Got no problems if you got to listen later. I completely get it. You can't listen live. But if there's one day of the week that you can watch or listen live, then you want to do it on Mano E Monday, right? Of course you do. Sean, how about them Texas Rangers? I'm trying to think if there's a Texas team, a professional Texas team that I like. It'd be hard to find one for me. I'm trying to go through them all in my head. You know what's sad? If you put all of the Texas professional teams together, I'm not a Texas guy. I just never have been. Texas people are nice to me. Gabe, obviously, super nice. But I just never was a fan of any of the Texas team. When I was a kid, I was a huge Cowboys fan, but that changed when Jerry Jones fired Tom Landry. You don't fire Tom Landry. That's a whole different story. Not getting into that. So if you put all the Texas team, what's your favorite Texas professional team if you had to pick one? I really think, and I don't love them, I don't dislike them, and I don't love them, I would probably say Gabe's Houston Texans. If I had to pick one professional team that I could get behind and say, you got to find one and you have to get behind them or you can't watch professional sports anymore, I would probably pick the Texans. Gabe says it's the Texans. They're the least dislikable team, I guess. I'm a big DeMeco Ryans fan. I've become a CJ Stroud fan probably because I was wrong about him. Or he's proven me wrong. I don't know. Anyway, there's lots of things I like about the Texans. And the Saints don't really have anything. They don't go up against them very often anyway. Mark says, I went against this bump. I don't want any excuses, pal. No excuses. Doesn't work that way. Sean, will Cooper Flag enter the NBA draft? That's not a question. He's going to enter the NBA draft. You're going to be the number one pick. There's zero reason. And I mean, you could maybe find some monetary reasons, some kind of way. Maybe you could probably make it worth it as well. I don't think so. Not in the NBA. You're not going to not go to the draft if you're the NBA. Charles says he loves the weather. Of course. Scott says he works from home. Doesn't have any calls for the moment. Well, I hope you don't get any for the next, hour and a half or so. Calvin says his favorite Texas team is the Astros because Louisiana didn't have a baseball team. That's fine. I just, being a Cubs fan, and you got to remember, when you're old like me, it's not like Gabe. Gabe doesn't have anything against the Cubs because he never grew up with the Cubs in the division. You can hate this, like, whatever. But when I was growing up, the Cubs and the Astros, it's the same reason why I can't stand the Mets. Cubs and the Mets were in the same division. I don't like, except he did for 15 years. Yeah. Not quite the same. Just hates the Cardinals way more. You said, we'll have a baseball discussion. Nobody wants to hear about a baseball discussion. However, I will say this about Cardinals fans. As much as I dislike the Cardinals and root for them to lose, I respect Cardinals fans because I've had many, and I got many friends that are Cardinals fans. One of my best friends in the world, Jim Rapier, has been my color analyst partner for a decade. And he's been my friend for longer than that. Huge Cardinals friend. Paul Haley, one of my good friends. Cardinals fan. Lots of Cardinals fans, friends. However, can't like them, but you can respect them. I respect Cardinals fans. Don't get me started. Astros. Not all Astros fans. I'm not going to put you all in the same cup. Man, sometimes some of the crap they say. Go to an Astros game. Go to an Astros game and just listen. You don't have to just listen. I'm telling you. I'm not linking. Gabe Henderson's dedicated. He's a baseball guy. He understands baseball, but some of those ladies and dudes don't really get it. Just going to say that. All right, 17 days to the NFL draft. Live show is coming. If you didn't know this already, right here on this channel, also on the NOLA Insiders page, the Saints Insiders page. Zach, you and I are hosting. Gabe, I think, is going to be a part of it. We haven't made that clear for sure yet. I guess shouldn't be talking about that if it's not clear yet, but maybe, probably, who knows? It's not completely formulated yet, but it's going to be a lot like the last 2 years if you watched either one of those. It'll be the fourth time when we've done a live draft show. The aforementioned Jim Rapier I was talking about. We did the first draft show, NFL draft show here on our NOAA.com stations way back in 2015. We were on the air live throughout the entire first round and the second night we were on the air live. That was interesting because I had never really done a live show, and they said, you know what? You've never done a live show, but we're going to put you in charge and let you talk for 5 hours. Huh? We're going to let you host the show. Host what? Do what? Yeah, that worked out. It actually came out pretty well. 2015, 10 years ago. That's hard to believe. Andrus Peat. Saints drafted Andrus Peat in that draft. They also drafted Stephon Anthony. They had 2 first-round picks. Those were the 2 first-round picks. We were way wrong on both of them. It can be found, by the way. If you go look for my personal YouTube page if you want to see it. There's a 12-minute highlight clip from it. I was using it for, I don't even remember what I was using it for. I think my boss had wanted it way back when. Can you put together, somebody wants to see you doing, what did y'all do? It's on my personal page. You can go find it. 12 minutes of highlights from a 5-hour show. And how shocked we were when the Saints drafted both Stephon Anthony and Andrus Peat. And I wasn't as mean to the Saints as I was. I wasn't, of course, it was the first time I'd done a live show like that anyway. So I wasn't as willing to speak my mind, I guess, as I am now. I was also about 30 or 40 pounds lighter than I am now. Anyway, go find it if you're interested. We're going to talk about that this morning. We're going to talk about, obviously, other Saints talk, whatever else comes up on Mano E Monday. We are definitely going to talk about Kelvin Sampson and the job that he did. And we're going to preview Houston versus Florida. And, of course, that's our pick for man versus machine. What will man pick? What will machine pick? We gave him a reset and a reboot, and Gabe Henderson still couldn't win. But at least he's 0-1 now instead of whatever the hell his record would have been. The machine is 1-0. We started it over. Our rules, we can do whatever the hell we want. We'll tell you about it in a minute. All right, we got lots to talk about. In fact, I'm still not even done with my pregame stuff here yet. But what's more important than all that? Let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you, or if it's someone you know, and their bracket's busted and they're trying to think about what the hell they want to do with their life, they're still distraught from Saturday night that Duke cost them a shot at $40 with their friends. That $2 pool that they were going to win. No, now they want to think about selling their business. Should have been thinking about it already. You at least want to know what it's worth, right? Time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemeld. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices, either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. And from there, you will be well informed to begin to make the decision, maybe the most important decision of your life, on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? We'll fill you in more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www, says Buddy D, www, Evangeline Securities.com. I was going to run a short. I did a couple shorts yesterday. One of them, in my opinion, I'm biased. The greatest TikTok short, whatever you want to call it. The kids call them TikToks because they watch them on TikTok. I call them shorts because I watch most of my shorts in either Facebook Reels or YouTube Shorts. I do watch TikTok occasionally. Anyway, the point is, I put together a collage from the show the other day on Friday, and if you didn't see it, go find this on YouTube. If you watch it on YouTube and when you're done, go find this short. It is a 2-minute and I think 40-second compilation of all. I just thought about that. 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and there are 24 of them. That averages out to 10 per quarterback. Anyway, the 24 quarterbacks that the Saints have drafted in their history. We go through them. If you missed it the other day, got to see this. Again, I was going to put it on the show, and I'm like, we got enough going on, and I ran out of time anyway, so I didn't do it. Go check that out, and I'll remind you later. And we've been doing more shorts as of late. I'm trying to do at least one every day. I don't do one every day. I'd like to, but we had some really good ones over the weekend. You might want to go take a look about it. YouTube got like 4,000 views. What does an average show get? I didn't put it on our NOLA Reels page. An average show gets about, right now, we're averaging about 10,000 views a show. That's if you include Facebook, YouTube, and all the places that we go to. And afterwards, the podcast itself. We're doing pretty well right now. But the shorts are getting somewhere around, they're only getting about 1,000 to 1,200 overall. This one as I looked this morning, it was like almost at 4,000. So people like this one. Anyway, it's the 24 quarterbacks that the Saints have drafted, besides Archie Manning and Mark Bulger, who obviously never played for the Saints. I defy you to find a quarterback in there that's worth a darn. I mean, Dave Wilson, sort of. Bobby Scott. Oh, God, no. I mean, but that's what we're talking about here. That's how bad it is. And y'all want the Saints to go draft a quarterback this year. Did we realize the history? Do we think it's just going to change this year? Oh, we'll talk about that more later, in either this week or next week for sure. I'm really pissed about not betting, as I'm all over the place this morning before we get into the Saints. I'm pissed about not betting the UConn women. I was going to bet the UConn all last week. If UConn gets to the championship, in fact, I should go bet a future on them. I kept putting it off. And yesterday morning, I'm like, I got to go bet UConn women. And my kids asked me about something I forgot. Next thing I know, UConn's beating South Carolina like 32-15. And I'm like, damn it. I don't even remember what the final was. They beat the hell out of them, though. And there was no doubt in my mind from the beginning of the tournament that UConn was going to win that thing. And I just never bet it. Sometimes you just want to kick yourself in the butt. Anyway, that's my talk about the national championship in the women's side this morning. It is what it is. I mean, it wasn't really that fun of a tournament. I didn't not watch because it wasn't that fun. I just couldn't get into it this year. I tried in the beginning, especially. I watched all the LSU games, but that's all I could really get into. Chad wants to know if Astros fans are as bad as LSU football fans. No. And I'm an LSU dude. I went to LSU. No. Kyle Sherman, St. Louis is a great baseball town and organization, has tons of great people. You like the Cardinals. I agree. They're a great baseball town and their organization has tons of great people. Doesn't mean I have to like them. Gary Bradford, just tuning in. Do you think we're taking a quarterback at 9 or a skill player? We're about to get into that. I promise. Only a couple more minutes before it's all Saints. The next half an hour or more. Calvin, the great athletic hope, Stephon Anthony. Yeah, that didn't work out too well. The Clemson prodigy. Didn't work out. Charles says he hates both teams, but he's pulling for Houston. Terrence, happy Monday. Welcome. I don't think I've seen you in a little bit. Rainy Cajun, digging the new shorts. That quarterback one was great. Well, thank you. Terrence says, isn't Florida going to win easily? Not. Can't get ahead of ourselves. That's later. Man versus machine. We don't want to ruin it for you. I know how much. Look, if y'all have not stayed around to the end of our shows where we do the man versus machine segments, I'm telling you, we're having a lot of fun with them. Doesn't mean we've been great at picking. We've been having a lot of fun with them. Terrence does not want the Saints to draft a quarterback. UBN says LSU fans in general are awful, and that's spoken from a true LSU fan. No comment. How about, by the way, before we move on, we're going to spend a vast majority of the show talking about mock drafts and Saints and whatever. And we're going to get into Kelvin Sampson, make our NCAA prediction, and end the show with Saints. Okay. But I know y'all don't give a damn about hockey, but you got to give at least a golf clap to Alex Ovechkin, right? Broke Wayne Gretzky's all-time scoring record, in case you're living under a rock and you just refuse to watch sports at all. I mean, it was on, I watch news in the mornings, especially on Monday, and they were talking about it on news. They're not during the sports portion of news, but news. Gabe Henderson says ESPN discussed Ovechkin versus LeBron this morning. Of course they did, because they got to get LeBron into freaking everything. Don't get me started. Ovechkin is way better in hockey than LeBron is in basketball. Sorry, piss off if you don't believe it. Oh, you don't have to piss off, but just whatever, you're wrong. You just try to get me fired up. Gabe's good at getting me fired up at least twice a week. You knew that was going to get my goat. Nick says they broke the record in the same exact amount of games. Really? Damn. That is crazy. Christian, just a bit outside. We already gave some praise to Bob Uecker last week. All right, last two things real quickly. Not going to spend a lot of time on them this morning. LSU baseball now 30-3. Oh, my word. They swept Oklahoma 2-0, 10-2, 3-2. Tigers are now third in the NCAA Division I rankings. They play at Nichols on Tuesday, then at Auburn Friday through Sunday. Maybe we'll have we haven't had Koki on in the show. Gabe says, I didn't realize this. They used 5 pitchers over 3 games. Wow. Go Tigers. We will talk about them later in the week for sure. Probably not Wednesday. I'm just giving you a heads up. Wednesday we are going to talk some Saints. Scott Rabelais is coming on the show. I don't know what day UBN's coming on to make probably have him on Wednesday if he can to make a prediction. But we are going to spend a lot of time on Wednesday talking about the Masters. Just telling you, we are. So Scott Rabelais on Wednesday. We'll see what else happens. Earl's Picks says his 13-year-old took Houston in Florida in his final 2 with Houston taking it all in his first year picking. I got to tell you, Earl, I hope your 13-year-old is right, because, again, if Houston wins, I'll win the big pool, baby. I'm in this. I think there's 38 people in the pool, and I didn't realize before they did it, so I would have never got in it. But it's winner take all, which is kind of silly for that many people in a pool. I don't know why they decided to do it winner take all, but whatever. So I'm going to hedge on Florida. You got to put some money on Florida, right? No different than having a future on Houston. So I'll go put a couple bucks on. That way I'll win something no matter who wins. Dylan Smith says it's one of the best pitching performances he's seen. Go Tigers. Kate Anderson was awesome on Thursday. UBN talking about how great LSU fans are. Remember when LSU lost 2 to Texas and they were doomed? This is why LSU fans are awful. 5 pitchers in 3 games. Seems like the bullpen may be okay. Terrence, what sport is this? Or are you talking about? He says A&M's number 1, Florida 2, for Auburn 3, Texas 4, UGA 5. I'm not sure what sport that you're talking about. Because, worst. Oh, I got you. Gabe showed that. Worst fan base. That's your word. Yeah. Look, A&M is an acquired taste, okay? And I'm not. Look, you go to football games at A&M, you better be prepared, buddy. With all this, the hand gyrations and the weird noises, it bothers me. I've seen 3 games at A&M, and LSU won 2 of them, and the other one the one that they lost was way back in the 80s, and it was super, super, super hot. It was like 92. They played them before Texas A&M was in the SEC. It was like 92 and miserable. Darren says they're insufferable. This is true. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about some Saints and get into some mocks here this morning. Yeah. I hear you. Dylan says he admits it. Good for you that you admit this. You were one of the ones that Texas series gave him feelings of last year. Obviously, this is not the same team as last year. Let's go. That's why look, my son, my 27-year-old, almost 27-year-old know-it-all son, didn't talk anything about baseball. He's a Cubs fan because I'm a Cubs fan, but he loves baseball. Okay. So he calls me before the Padres series and tells me how the Cubs are gonna, they're looking good this year. They're gonna be one of the. He asked me after the second game, okay, after the second Padres game, he says, "I told you, you believe now." I said, "It's April 5th, you moron." So while I'm working on shorts yesterday, and the Cubs take a 7-3 lead over the Padres, he texts me again. "I told you so. You believe me yet?" I said, "It's April 6th, you idiot." And then after they lost 8-7. I don't know. Kids, man. Earl doesn't like A&M. Calvin says, living in Georgia, Georgia fans are the most delusional. Charles says, you can't stand the cowbells. Then don't go to Starkville either. What this world needs is more cowbell. Carol Walker. Huh? No, shouldn't have said that one. Just stopped by for a family portrait. I think you stopped by the wrong place. Yeah. Terrence says, there's so many fan bases worse than the Tigers nationwide. People just don't get it. I guess they're bad wherever you are, right? Wherever you are, that's where they're the worst sometimes. I'm an LSU dude. I have been since I was little, but sometimes, man, LSU fans are out there. All right. Let's talk about mocks. I have a good friend named Brian Mock. I'm not talking about him. Talking about mock drafts this morning. There's actually a site, if you don't know this, there's a site called NFLMockDraftDatabase.com. Now, I like to use it. I don't love it, but I like to go to it every now and then. That is not where I got the mock drafts of the day, okay? So if you go to the point is, I guess, as I was doing some research on this yesterday and then again this morning, I didn't realize exactly, I joke about in the history of mock drafts, there have been 2,747,323 of them. And you know how many have been right? Gabe, how many have been right out of those mock drafts? 2,740 whatever 1,343. The number of those that have been right in the history of time, that would be 0. Roll them. Yep, I just did that on the air, baby. That would be zilch. So, but they're still fun to look at. That's what they're supposed to be, fun. So we're going to talk about some of these mock drafts. And you see the 2 behemoths that I have at the top of this title page. Oh, if you can't see it, if you listen to the mock draft. I mean, if you listen to the mock draft. If you're listening to the show after the fact and podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you happen to listen, you can see Jihad Campbell on the left of Alabama. Didn't know much about him before this weekend. Got to be honest. And Kelvin Banks, it's actually Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle from Texas on the right. Okay. I didn't know much about either one of these guys. And I'm like, not thinking they're a possibility. Well, Pro Football Focus, their mock draft. You want to hear their top 8 before we get to the Saints? They got Cam Ward going to the Titans, and they have a trade. The Bears receive the second pick of the draft. The Browns get picks number 10, 39, and 148, and a 2026 first-round pick. That's the going rate. I don't see it because I think the Bears want an offensive lineman. Maybe. Anyway, They say the Bears trade up and get Abdul Carter. Then the Giants at 3 take Travis Hunter. The Patriots at 4 take Will Campbell. Will Campbell's not going 4th. Jaguars take Mason Graham from Michigan. The Raiders take Ashton Genty. I think almost everybody's got that. The Jets take Armand Membu. And if that happens, the Saints will probably be throwing up their hands. The Carolina Panthers then take Tetairoa McMillan. And the Saints at number 9, according to Pro Football Focus, take Jihad Campbell. They say, quote, with Demario Davis reaching age 36 and having clocked more than 12,500 snaps across his career, the wear and tear of the NFL will catch up sooner rather than later. Pete Werner is a serviceable player, but doesn't hold a candle to Will Campbell's potential to be the centerpiece of this defense for years to come. What? Doesn't hold the candle. I don't know what they're comparing here. Anyway, whatever. No. Gabe Henderson says Kelvin Banks is the best offensive lineman in the draft. Maybe. We're going to get to him in a minute. Earl says no way the Bears do that. I agree. Calvin says I'd take Campbell before those 2 corners. Okay. I just don't think the Saints are going to go take a line. Jihad Campbell from other mock drafts I've been looking at, I'm trying to find out. In fact, let's look at this one here. This is SI, and I did not include this in the list. Where do they have who they have the Saints? They have the Saints taking Will Campbell, which seems more realistic to me. Okay. Where do they have Jihad Campbell going? They have him going 16th to the Cardinals. Okay. So I've seen him all over the place, but his average, according to NFL mock draft database, his average rank is 17th, which is up from, let's see, on March the 1st, his average spot was 26. So he has been rising up the draft. I don't see him going at 9. I don't see the same. Now that's a pick that, okay, if you like a linebacker, I don't love that, the idea of that. But if you like a linebacker there, then why wouldn't you trade down? You're not going to take Jihad Campbell at 9, right? You would hope not. Brian Cabot, welcome. It's been so busy, but he's been watching later in the day on demand. Well, we're glad you're here no matter how you can get here. We thank you for being a part of the family, as you know, and you have been with us for quite a while. So that's the PFF draft. Just out of curiosity, in case you're interested, right below the Saints, they got the Browns trading to 10 with the Bears. Well, no, the Bears wouldn't have that pick anymore. Anyway, I guess it's part of, that's the trade. The Browns moved down because they got the trade. Okay. And with the 10th pick, the Browns take Mike Green, edge rusher from Marshall. The 49ers take Jahdae Barron from Texas, cornerback. And then the Cowboys take Tyler Warren. I know a lot of you are in the Tyler Warren camp. There it is. Calvin says Warren would have been his pick. What else we got? We got CBS Sports Line. This particular writer, because there are multiple mocks, I believe, at CBS. But Ryan Wilson, the most prominent mock drafter there, his goes a little something like this. He's got Cam Ward going to the Titans. Shedeur Sanders at 2. Oh, by the way, you know what? I never even looked at Where did Shedeur Sanders go in that PFF? You know what? Let's look that up. I didn't even think about that. Holy smokes. Here we go on live TV again. Shedeur Sanders goes, where does he go? Holy smokes. He goes 21 to Pittsburgh, according to PFF. Does anyone realistically think that Shedeur Sanders is going to last to 21? There's your answer. I don't think Shedeur Sanders lasts to 21. He may last to 9, and then the Saints will. I said this as part of one of the shorts the other day. Can you imagine if Shedeur Sanders is there at 9 and the Saints pass on him? What the general Houdat public will do? they will go ballistic. I think I used the term ape shit. We're 35 minutes. I can say that now. I didn't want to say it at 4 minutes in. They go ape shit. Who dat nation? We'd go ballistic. Earl says there's no reason to take a defensive lineman, defensive back, linebacker that early in the draft. It's flooded with them. I couldn't agree more. This is, as we've talked about, you know how much I respect Mike Detillier. Football purgatory, baby. Mike Detillier says this is the best defensive lineman draft he's seen in a quarter century. If he says it, I believe it. No reason to take a defensive. I'm not taking defense in the first round. And I know cornerback isn't part of that group, whatever. I know a lot of people think Saints need a cornerback, and they do, but not at number 9. Will Campbell, Armand Membo, Kelvin Banks with pick number 9 would be awesome. Kelvin Banks with pick number 9. Not Kelvin Banks with. It's Monday, man. Dude, I can't even read. Or maybe it's like my eyes getting better. It doesn't look as bad. I'm hideous. Don't look at me. Don't stop staring at me. UBN wants to know if I would go ape shit if they take Shedeur Sanders. Probably. See, you know, I don't want to. If you say you're going to do something and then, like, if I predict that I'm going to go crazy, and then I don't want it to be a show. I want it to be a natural reaction. So probably, but I don't want to tell you yes and like, oh, he's just putting on a show. I want it to be a natural reaction. I am just telling you that if the Saints draft a quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft with pick number 9, 2 weeks from Thursday, you are going to want to be on this channel live. And I'm telling you, you probably want to come on here live anyway, just in case it happens. You want to see it live. Chad Gage. Still think OL in the first round, but would not cry if they take Tyler Warren, Ashton Genty, or Tetaroa McMillan. You know, look, you asked me if I would go crazy if they draft Shedeur Sanders. If they draft any one of those 3 guys, I've already told you Genty is one of my exceptions anyway. I just don't think he's going to make it that far. I know so many people out there want Tyler Warren. I'm probably going to go. If they draft Tyler Warren, I will probably roll my eyes and go, eh. But I won't go. I mean, it's a logical pick. I mean, it does make sense. It's something the Saints really need, but they just paid Juwan Johnson $30 million for 3 years. Are you really going to go draft a tight end in the first round? It's not like last year, okay? I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. So, and then McMillan, look, again, that's another thing. Saints need a wide receiver. So I'm not going to be pissed. I think that the Saints would be better served to either trade down and get someone else or whatever. I'm not going to be pissed if they take Tetaroa McMillan. I'll understand why. But you're not helping the number one thing that you need to help, and that's protect your quarterback. None of this crap matters if you don't protect your quarterback. Dislike or like Derek Carr. Hate or love Derek Carr. Does anyone love Derek Carr, by the way? I mean, I'm probably the biggest defender on of any place on the internet or TV or whatever. I don't know anyone besides maybe Derek Carr's mama. And I'm not really defending Derek Carr per se. I'm saying he's the best option for the Saints. There's no question. Does anyone really love Derek Carr? No. I want to rant. I don't know. But you still got to protect Derek Carr. Terrence. He actually won't love you, but no. Want to go to Antarctica if we draft a quarterback. I mean, why would I said the other day, in case you missed it, and look, again, go watch the shorts that I put on both YouTube and TikTok the other day. Talked about it at length. Now, the one besides the 24 quarterbacks that the Saints have drafted, which is a complete embarrassment, by the way. Has there been a team that has been in the NFL longer than 20 years, which is what everybody now, right? Texas has been in the league 20 years, right? So every team has been in the league for 20 years. Has there been a team in the NFL that has had a worse history of drafting quarterbacks than the New Orleans Saints? Gabe, put that on the list. 32, we're going to rank them in order. The 32 teams who have had from 1 to 32, ranking them on how they've done in the draft, drafting quarterbacks. Saints have got to be 32. I mean, this is just off the top of my head. They've got to be 32, right? Can anyone off the top of their head think of a worse team drafting quarterbacks than the Saints? Take Archie Manning out of the 24. Of the 23 other quarterbacks the Saints have drafted in their history, other than Archie Manning, you can say Mark Bulger, but he went to the Rams. He was good with the Rams. There isn't a quarterback worth squat on that list. It's so bad that I ain't joking. When I tell you that Spencer Rattler's probably in the top 10 all time of quarterbacks the Saints have drafted, and I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm saying it to be realistic. Spencer Rattler is probably in the top 10 in the history of quarterbacks the Saints have drafted. Spencer Rattler's got to be in the top 10. I got to say. Just got to be, right? Phil's telling Terrence he needs $39,000 to go to Antarctica. Is that how much it costs to go to Antarctica? UBN, you hear that? You ever played golf in Antarctica? It's fun. Just saying. Fun. Saint for life, you're here. Good morning. Bears are horrible too. Yeah, but I don't think the Saints bad. I don't know. I'd have to go back in their history. Terrence's Bears are number 31. Saint for life says Jets. Did they draft Joe Namath? Because if they drafted Joe Namath, well, I guess Joe Namath and Archie Manning, okay, what and what? Joe Namath won a Super Bowl. I don't know. Joe Namath sucks. Dude, he doesn't suck. Come on. It's not great. Lewis Jacobson. Tell them goofy bastards. People can't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. You're talking about Mickey Loomis, aren't you? Brian Esteve says the Browns. I don't know. The Browns had Stipe go back in the day. And not only that, if you go way back in the Browns history, like before the Super Bowl era, didn't they have like Otto Graham? Wasn't he a Brown? Was that a draft? I don't know. We're gonna do a show on this. This is gonna be a fun show, Gabe. We're gonna do a show on this. Top 32. Gonna go from 1 to 32. I mean, are the Patriots automatically number 1 because they drafted Tom Brady in the 6th round? Got to be up there. Gabe, Joe Namath, he's just battering, ramming on Joe Namath. 173 touchdowns and 220 interceptions in his career. He sucks. Different world, my friend. I'm not defending those stats because those stats suck. But if you go back and look at, I have no idea. Go look up. Here's a quarterback, like a really, really good quarterback from that day. Okay. Not the best quarterback from that day, but I'm going to give you a name to go look up. I have no idea. I'm just throwing this out there. Go look up Fran Tarkenton stats. Tell me what his touchdown interception ratio. Play like 20 years. The Packers are good at drafting quarterbacks. Yeah, Terrence, you're right. Otto Graham. I mean, Browns. I mean, did well. Brian Cavett said the Saints would be 32 in the NFL, and if you throw in the CFL, they'll be 40th, and then the UFL, they'd be 48th. I ain't arguing with you. Okay, well, that name didn't prove anything. Fran Tarkenton. But Fran Tarkenton he's one of the best quarterbacks of his era. He threw 342 touchdowns and 266. That's pretty good for back then, man. That's really good for back then. Jay Tucker Rafferty says Seattle. I don't know. Who's Seattle drafted? Jim Zorn? Trying to think of Seattle quarterbacks they drafted. I don't. You could be up there. Let's see. History. Let's do this. You might have me. History, quarterbacks, QBs drafted by Seattle. We've been doing a lot of this live crap on TV. Oh, they drafted Russell Wilson. Let's see. Drafted Russell Wilson. They drafted, who the hell is Sam Atkins? Drafted Dan McGuire. I don't know, man. You might have something there. Going back through time. Steve Meyer. Sam Atkins. I don't even know who that is. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I don't waste too much time, but I'm going through. They haven't drafted a lot of quarterback, hardly any. Good Lord. I'm going through a bunch of years here. Here's John Connor from Arizona in 85. Who the hell is that? David Norrie of UCLA in 86. Who the hell is that? They drafted, man, this is bad. You might be right. Seattle is in the running. John Gromos from Vanderbilt in 1990. Dan McGuire was the 16th overall pick in the 1991 draft from San Diego State. That's pretty bad. Youch. And then just a couple years later, this is even worse. Do y'all remember this? I didn't until I looked at it. The number 2 pick of the 93 draft for the Seattle Seahawks, Rick Meyer. Oh, my word. You're right. The Saints might not be 32. Seattle might be worse. Brock Heward in the 3rd round of the 99 draft. That's interesting. Josh Booty. They drafted Josh Booty in the 2001 draft. Man, Seneca Wallace. That's pretty bad, dude. David Green, their 3rd round pick from Georgia. Remember him? This is really bad. Mike Teal from Rutgers in 09. Good Lord. I think that's worse than the Saints, y'all. Russell Wilson, 3rd round of the 12th draft. That doesn't make it as good as that is. I don't think that bumps it above the Saints. Terrence says Russell Wilson trumps all that. I don't think so. Russell Wilson doesn't trump Archie Manning. I mean, I know where y'all going to go with this. Oh, he won the Super Bowl. He also lost the Super Bowl on his own. Gabe says he won't accept Seneca Wallace slander. He's a bum. Earl says the Saints stink drafting quarterbacks, but at least 99% of them will late pick bust, unlike the Bears. That's true. You have a point. Russ is better than Archie. Yeah, that's not the point, though. Russ is better than Archie overall. I don't deny. I'm not debating that. However, when you put their body of work and all those names that I just mentioned, that's like they used the 2nd pick of the draft to pick Rick Meyer. You know how much that brings down the Russell Wilson pick? At least the Saints haven't done that. I mean, the Saints have made bad quarterback picks, but they haven't drafted somebody in the 1st or 2nd round that was just a bum. Just saying. They wait till later to pick bums. Right? I don't know. Oh, yeah. Charles, the Raiders picked Jamarcus Russell with the 1st pick of the NFL draft. You know, I forget that sometimes. Bino Cook told him to do what? Draft Rick Meyer? Good old Bino Cook. Anyway, let's go to some other mock drafts because that's what we're really supposed to be talking about today. I just got off on a tangent, but I thought it was an interesting tangent. It's going to be a show. That's got to be a show, right? But see, the Saints drafted Sean Canfield and Ian Book. Yeah, but way later in the draft. And again, it's no big deal if you draft a bum later in the draft. It's way different if you use the 2nd pick of the draft to pick Rick Meyer. That's really bad. And Josh Rosen, or whatever the hell, the dude from UCLA, whatever. Dude from UCLA. The 16th pick of whatever draft that, like 3 years before that. So in 3 years, the chosen Rosen. And in a 3-year span, you used 2 first-round picks, one on the 2nd pick of the draft, on 2 absolute just dog bums. I think that's worse than the Saints. The Saints drafted bums, Jay Tucker Rafferty says, while we had Drew. They really didn't draft hardly anyone. If you go back and look, and I can't remember, again, you go back and look through that short that I made, I think they only drafted 3 quarterbacks the entire time Drew was here, I think. Charles, were the Billy Joes drafted by the Saints? Neither one of them were drafted by the Saints. You got to go back and look at the shorts. I listed all 24 quarterbacks in the history of the Saints franchise that were drafted by the Saints. Neither Tolliver nor Hobart, Billy Joe Tolliver, Billy Joe Hobart, they both, I think one of them was traded here and one of them, I think did get picked up. Terrence says that Rick Meyer was a parade All-American quarterback along with his friend Chad Loop. Chad Loop, LSU standout back in 1989. Yeah. Other mocks, The Athletic. Now, a lot of you will like this because I know I would be willing to say that there's a good 30, 40% of my crowd out there today, 30, 40% of my regulars that are for Tyler Warren. They want the Saints to draft Tyler Warren. They will be happy the Saints go for Tyler Warren in the first round of the NFL draft. So The Athletic has their first round like this. Tennessee Titans, Cam Ward. And by the way, it is Nick Baumgardner who wrote this. And he says of Cam Ward, by the way, he says, to be clear, I would not do this. Why not? Why would you not do it? Look, I know this is a quarterback weak, quote unquote, draft. Just like the Saints, there's nothing more that they need than an offensive lineman. There ain't nothing more the Titans need than a quarterback because they haven't had one. I guess Ryan Tannehill was okay. But I don't know. I said it before. I said it when they did it. I'll say it now. Will Levis sucks. He sucked when they drafted him. He sucks today. They need a quarterback. They need to get Cam Ward. If I'm the Titans, I'm not trading the pick unless I can make some weird trade and get a quarterback from someone else. Who would that be? I have no idea. Anyway, Titans, according to The Athletic, get Cam Ward. Then Cleveland takes Travis Hunter. Makes sense. Giants, Mason Graham. Maybe. That leaves the Patriots licking their chops to get Abdul Carter. Then the Jaguars take Will Campbell. Boo. The explanation, by the way, for Will Campbell is, according to The Athletic, quote, Campbell's arms are a bit short. If he wasn't so good with his hands and feet, that might be an issue. But Campbell, one of the hardest workers in this draft class, is a terrific athlete. Like when the Chargers drafted Rashawn Slater. Nobody should overthink this. I don't see Will Campbell going at 5. I mean, maybe these guys know more than me. Number 6, almost everybody's got this. I'd be shocked if this doesn't, not shocked. I'd be surprised if this doesn't happen. Raiders, Ashton Genty. Not going to get past 6, I don't think. The Jets take Armand Membu. Then, again, the Saints are left in a precarious situation. Maybe you do think about a Kelvin Banks. Both those offensive linemen are going. Once again, another mocker. Carolina taking Teteroa McMillan. And then the Saints taking Tyler Warren. And I quote, the 2025 draft class features another great tight end group, and Warren, a true 3-down weapon with the potential to be a dominant run blocker, is the leader of the pack. The tight end position has evolved so much in the last 10 years, and Warren is the type of weapon that's worth it in the top 10. Is the okay? I know you're joking. I'm gonna get to it in a minute. Never mind. I'm gonna get to it in a minute. Cecil, the Raiders used the number 1 on Todd Marinovich. They did, and the number 1 pick of the draft on Jamarcus. I don't know. What do y'all think about Tyler Warren? You can go ahead and talk about it. Sad thing is, Jay Tucker Rafferty says, one possible was the best could have been Jake Delhomme was a free agent, and Hazlitt screwed that up when Brooks was hurt. I don't disagree with you, but hindsight 2020 on that one. They should have used Jake Delhomme. Would it have mattered in the long run? I don't know. If the Saints, here's the thing though, the Saints use Jake Delhomme and they make that change. Here's where fate plays a part in all this stuff. Okay. If the Saints put Jake Delhomme in for Aaron Brooks, they win one of those 3 games or 2 of those games or 3 of those games and they make it to the playoffs that year. You know what happens? Jake Delhomme becomes the starting quarterback for the Saints and the Saints never get Drew Brees. Just saying. Just saying. Sean, other than the Reggie Bush draft when the Saints were in great position to draft an elite quarterback, not including the pass on Lamar Jackson. By the way, Lamar Jackson was drafted 32nd in that draft. So everyone else passed on Lamar Jackson too. I hate that comparison. The Saints passed on Lamar Jackson. So did everyone else, except the Ravens, who were drafted 32nd. Everyone else passed on Lamar Jackson too. I could tell you this. If I go back in time, I think I was covering prep at the time. I don't remember for sure. In fact, I'm almost certain I was covering prep at the time. I guarantee you I was not for the Saints drafting Lamar Jackson. Why would you draft Lamar Jackson at that point? I mean, we all knew then that Drew Brees had at least 2 years left. You let him sit on. Don't get me started. Patrick Mahomes is a different animal. Crazy to think, Earl says, 98% of Saints starters were not drafted by us. I thought we drafted Aaron Brooks. Come to find out the Packers did. We didn't even draft Bobby Hebert. No, Bobby Hebert was taken from the USFL, and that USFL, actually, it wasn't even a supplemental draft. He didn't get taken in the supplement, if I remember. In fact, Jim Mora talked about this. Jim Mora, I don't remember exactly what episode it is. You'd have to go back. It's from August of 2022, I believe. Jim Mora was on this show. It was back when we were doing audio only, so you'd have to go find it on SoundCloud or whatever. It's a great interview, by the way. He spends a lot of time talking about Sam Mills and some other things. We did it whenever Sam Mills passed away and was going to the. We're talking about whether he should go to the Hall of Fame or whatever. I had Jim Mora on the show. And we spent a lot of time talking about Sam Mills, but in that show we talked about how Bobby Hebert ended up becoming a Saint, and I know Bobby's talked about it before. That he was, and actually. Mike Detilliers talked about it on the show before. Talked about how Bobby was going to go to Seattle. And somehow Governor Edwards stepped in and said, Bobby, you can't. And, two Cajuns talking to one another. I'll do my really bad Cajun accent. Oh, no, Bobby, you can't go to Seattle. You got to stay here in New Orleans. Next thing you know, they started talking, made sure that he got the signing bonus that he wanted. And just like Governor Edwards did to save the Saints and keep him here with Tom Benson, got Bobby Hebert to come to New Orleans instead of going to Seattle, because he was going to Seattle after he played in the USFL for the Panthers, won a USFL championship. So, yes, Saints did not draft Bobby Hebert. Charles Manga says Ryan Leaf, Chargers draft, probably biggest bust in NFL history. Oh, no. Oh, God, no. Jamarcus Russell was a way bigger bust than Ryan Leaf. Way bigger. Gary Bradford, Titans going to have Carr. No, they can't. They can't have Carr. I would take Carr every day, Christmas and New Year's, Mardi Gras, and the 4th of July over Cam Ward. Besides all that, the Saints we've been through this. The Saints would have to not only trade them Derek Carr, they'd have to get Derek Carr to waive his no-trade clause. And I know you're only joking, but they would have to waive the no-trade clause contract, which he's not going to do, to go to Tennessee. And then, not only that, they'd have to give him, obviously, number 9 this year, probably their second-round pick this year, and a number 1 next year, and probably something else. That's a hell no. For Cam Ward, you out of your box. No way. Saint for Life says, Tyler Warren is the cleanest prospect in this draft. What scouts? He's considered a day 1 starter, future All-Pro. That does for me? Nothing. It's not what the Saints need. Now, again, if that's what happens, the Saints go get Tyler Warren, I'm going to probably just roll my eyes and whatever. I'm not going to be like, if the Saints go draft Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart, you're going to want to watch the show. If the Saints go and draft linebacker Jihad Campbell at 9, you're going to want to watch the show. I'm just saying. You're going to want to watch the show if that happens. But so Tyler Warren, I was just like, okay, I get it. So it wouldn't be like the end of the world as we know it. Pardon me, REM. That's not what the Saints, if you don't protect your quarterback, you got no shot to do anything. And I would just say, if he's still there, and these mock drafts, I have Tedero Millen going to the Panthers and Ashton Genty going to the Raiders, I would rather see them go get a skilled position player. I'd rather see them go get one of those 2 guys. If those two guys, it's hard to believe that the two big linemen in this draft, two best tackles, although Gabe thinks Banks is better tackle. I think the two best tackles are Campbell and Membu, but so does everybody else for the most part. But however, my point is, if those, I find it hard to believe that those two guys and Genty and McMillan will all be gone. It's possible, but I doubt it. Chad Gage says if we get Warren, possibly move Johnson to wideout position at times. I think they're probably going to do that anyway if they don't go get a receiver. I hear you, Chad. Look, all of y'all. I know. Look, like I said, I know there's a lot of people here who want Tyler Warren in that spot. I get it. Again, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I'm just telling you why I think it has to be O-line. It just has to be O-line. Nothing against Tyler Warren. Are the scouts right? Maybe. We never know if the scouts are right. Is it something that the Saints would do? Probably not, but maybe. Lewis Mathern says he agrees with me. O-line should be 9. Got to protect the quarterback, but as long as Loomis is this team's GM and convinced he would trade up with extra picks, burning a hole in his pocket. Lewis, I'm sorry to tell you this. That wasn't Loomis that wanted to trade up all the time. That was your boy, Sean Payton. Okay? I'm not saying that Loomis doesn't buy off of the Sean Payton script when it comes to draft. However, I don't see. Look, I know y'all don't think the Saints use common sense at times, and y'all think that that Mickey just sucks so bad you can't give him any credit for anything. I understand that. I don't agree with you, but I understand it. That being said, there's no logical reason to move up in this draft more than a spot or two, and that would only to be if there's someone you really, really want, and you get wind of a team just in front of you about to take that person. Okay? If you really, really want, I don't know, let's say you really, really want Genty, okay? And you get to 8 and Genty hasn't been taken yet. And you say, I don't want the Panthers to snipe me. Or whatever. Or you see it coming and maybe you make a trade with the Jets. You know, you're not going to make the Panthers wouldn't trade somebody there if that's what they want. Maybe you make a trade with the Jets at 7. Who knows? I just don't see. I think the chances of the Saints trading up in this draft, even a spot or two, are slim to none. I really do. I know that it's not in their MO, so I don't think they're doing this either, but I think there's a much better chance they trade down than trade up. Just saying. Brian's talking about Lamar Jackson, so that included the Ravens because they traded back in to get the 32nd pick to draft him. However, I mean, they passed on him, but then they traded back in to get him. But yes, every team with a pick in the first round had a chance to draft Lamar Jackson, and they didn't. Just saying. Rainey Caden says he's sure there was nothing shady at all with Edwin Edwards. Look, this ain't a political show. I'm just going to say this. Edwin Edwards might have been whatever you want to call him, crooked, whatever you want to call him. But that dude did more for the state than any governor in my lifetime. Just saying. He may have skimmed off the top and skimmed off the bottom too. I don't give a damn. He kept the Saints here. Did a lot of things for the state. Just saying. Calvin says Jamarcus Russell was an offensive lineman size towards the end. Ain't no doubt about that. Charles is right. At the time, lots of people thought Ryan Leaf was better than Peyton Manning. It's true. Let's see what else. Saints. Jay Tucker Rafferty says Saints likely get Dart at 32 with a trade from the Eagles. Man, what you watching? Let me just say this. If someone's actually predicting the Saints make it right now, the Saints make a trade with the Eagles and then go get Dart at 32. First of all, while I don't think the Saints should be doing any kind of trades to get another quarterback right now, at least that wouldn't be ridiculous. If you go and get Dart at 32, okay. But if someone is that much of a soothsayer, a Nostradamus, if you will, an NFL Nostradamus that you could see that far in advance that the Saints going to trade to get the 32nd pick and then draft Jackson Dart? Somebody's getting major props from me, pal. I'm just saying. Calvin says that the Saints are content with Fuaga and Penning. Why not take whoever at 9 and get Taylor Booker at guard at 40? Because if you're content with Trevor Penning at right tackle, then you should have your head examined. Anyone. I can't imagine that Kellen Moore is going to be content with Trevor Penning at right tackle as a starting right tackle. I can't imagine. Why? Because he's not good enough to be a starting right tackle. Not unless you want your quarterback hurt. At least the good news is if you leave him at right tackle, Derek Carr can see him coming at him. Just saying. All right, the next one. Speaking of Jackson Dart, how about Mel Kiper Jr., the slick back wonder? Mel Kiper Jr. hadn't been right since I don't even know if he's been right with his first pick in 30 years. I think that Vitalis got in his ears or his eyes or something. This dude's a dumbass, and I'm assuming that he writes some of this crap just to get clicks. But whatever. We'll give him, I usually don't give anyone attention. But let's go. Here's his top 10, or at least his top 9. Titans draft Cam Ward. If they don't draft Cam Ward, they're just silly. He says, and I like when it's like the weather people. We're still not 100% sure what the Titans will do. Well, no, duh. Not 100%. You're not 100% sure they're going to wake up in the morning. Duh. Come on. Cleveland Browns then take Abdul Carter. The Giants, Shedeur Sanders. Patriots, Travis Hunter. Completely different draft than some of these other ones. I actually think this is probably more realistic than some of the other ones I've read. Jaguars take Mason Graham. Raiders, Ashton Genty. Everybody's got the Raiders taking Ashton Genty so far. That means he's not going there. Jets, sorry, Saints fans. Got the Jets taking Tyler Warren. Panthers taking Jalon Walker. If the Saints get to 9, and no tackle has been taken, no lineman has been taken yet, and it gets to 9, and the Saints pick Jackson Dart, I'm going to go ballistic. You are going to want to watch the show. I am telling you right now. If no offensive lineman is off the board and the Saints take Jackson Dart at 9, it's one thing if they trade down and then they take Jackson Dart. You're going to want to watch that show. And then his 10th pick is Michael Williams. Finally, he has a lineman, UBN. You'll probably be happy about this. He's got Membu going into the Niners. When does Will Campbell go? 13th to the Dolphins, according to Mel Kiper Jr. I wonder if Mel Kiper Sr. was his. Mel Kiper Sr., I'm guessing, isn't with us any longer, but he'd probably be a better mock drafter than Mel Kiper Jr. Just saying, I guess. Isaiah says, if we draft Tyler Warren, we could use Juwan Johnson as both wide receiver and tight end. Yeah, but you don't pay 3 years, $30 million for that. Dual threat player would help Moore's offense when Hill is back. Who says that Hill's coming back? That's another reason why maybe you do want to get Tyler Warren. I get it, because you don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen with Taysom Hill. I don't know. Let's see. Jay says it's been many times said that Loomis defers to the head coach. Absolutely, he does. Unless the head coach makes the calls. One of the reasons Moore likes the job here. I agree. I don't think there's any doubt. That's true. Let's see what else we got here before we move on to the NFL.com pick, which I'm not real fond of either. Lewis Mathern says, I'm 100% on Edwards. Sure, he took his off the top. He took his off the top. But I always look to help Louisiana win along the way. Better than anything we have had since. Have we had anything since? Don't get me started. I don't want to talk politics at all. Like, I don't even want to infer anything about politics. I'm sorry I brought it up, but in answer to your question, not really. Not that I can think of. UBN wants to know if I looked at Todd McShay's draft. Oh, let's look it up. Todd McShay mock draft. We'll do it live online. Here we go. Here we go. Do. I just see his big board. I don't know if I see his draft here. Hold on. I probably shouldn't do this on live TV. I don't see it. If you want to send me a link via text, go ahead. Some other mock drafts. What else do we have here before I get to this bottom one? We'll do one on the fly here. I have not looked at a lot of these, okay? Well, let's look at one that I haven't looked at. I'm going to go at blind. USA Today. Will they even let me look at it? Because sometimes they have a paywall. Oh, no. Okay, they don't. Here's their top 9. Cam Ward, Abdul Carter to the Browns, Travis Hunter to the Giants, Membu to the Patriots. Seeing him all over the place. Here you go, Gabe. USA Today's got Kelvin Banks going 5th to the Jaguars. Wow. Mason Graham to the Raiders is the first non-Ashton Genty Raiders pick. Then Genty to the Jets. Michael Williams, and then Will Campbell to the Saints. That's interesting. Mally Mouse says Dart at number 9 is too risky. Joe Hamilton, Shedeur Sanders, what's the chance? I hope 0, but it's not 0. I said this the other day, again, also on a short. I gave you my chances on the Saints. I'll give you a spoiler alert. Chances the Saints take a quarterback, not just Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart. The Saints take a quarterback at pick number 9. We figured it out. Gabe and I did some numbers, put some numbers together, and we figured it out to be, and I gave the Saints a little boost up because of their unpredictableness. It's about 4%. That's what I got. 4%. The Saints take, Okay, UBN sent me, let's see. No, that's Ross Jackson. I'll read Ross Jackson's picks. Ross Jackson has Shedeur Sanders. Ross Jackson has been a guest on this show. He's got Shedeur Sanders. That's not ESPN's UBN. That's Ross Jackson being tweeted out by ESPN. He's got Shedeur Sanders come to say. Again, I just don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to make it, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. But even if he does, you can't do that, in my opinion. Isaiah said if I saw Ross's video on Sunday, which I didn't, and I do listen to Ross, not every day, but I do listen to him a decent amount. He thinks Deion is trying to keep his son, quote, from sliding. Deion does not think the Saints will take him at number 9, doesn't want him to fall past 9. Who cares what Deion wants? I mean, I'm not being a jerk, and I've come to grow mad respect for Deion Sanders, which I didn't have in my younger days. We're about the same age. But who cares what he wants? I mean, if teams don't want him, what's he going to do? I mean, what could he possibly do? If teams don't want him, they pass on him. They pass on him. I actually think one of my predictions is going to be, and I'm going to give you, again, spoiler alert, I'm probably not going to do a mock draft. We were talking about doing a mock draft. I think I'd rather give you 5 or 10 hot takes on what I think is going to happen in the draft. And one of my hot takes is going to be, I think Shedeur Sanders falls below 9. I actually think there's always someone who kind of slips on draft night. That's all right, Isaiah. It's nothing he can't do anyway. That's what's funny about it. It's true. But I just think that Shedeur Sanders is going to be one of those guys that slips, and they've got ESPN and NFL Network, whatever. They've got their cameras like on him all night in the green room or whatever. Wherever he is, they're going to be pinned on Shedeur Sanders because that's what they're going to be talking about all night long. Mally Mal says Shadour's going in the top 3. I mean, you might be right. Would it surprise me if he went in the top 3? No, absolutely not. But I just, you know how you get a feeling? That, again, always someone that just slips and slips and slips and slides. Will Levis slipped and slid because, remember, Will Levis stock that year, a couple years ago, had shot up the draft boards. And everyone was talking about maybe Will Levis going in the top 5 or 10 or whatever it was. And he kept slip sliding, and he went to the Titans late in the first round. Or was it the second round? Did he go in the bottom of the first or early second? Second round, Gabe. So every year there's somebody. You go back in the day, Randy Moss. I don't remember. It's somewhere around 20 when he went to the Vikings. But Randy Moss was supposed to go in the top 10. Boy, you want to talk about teams that passed on somebody and kicked themselves in the ass, letting Randy Moss go. Yeah. Anyway. NFL.com, their mock draft. They've got Cam Ward, number 1. Travis Hunter, number 2 to the Browns. Shedeur Sanders, number 3 to the Giants. Abdul Carter, number 4 to the Patriots. Mason Graham, number 5 to the Jaguars. Number 6 to the Raiders. You got it. Ashton Genty. Now, here's one. This would take away any possibility of the Saints doing something really stupid if this really happens. So, again, they got Cam Ward, 1 to the Titans. Shedeur Sanders, number 3 to the Giants. And how about this? The 7th pick of the 2025 draft, NFL.com, Jackson Dart at number 7. Wow. Tyler Warren at number 8 to the Panthers. Jalon Walker, edge rusher. That would be so silly. If you take an edge rusher over an offensive tackle. And then they got, of course, at 10 and 11, Bears taking Membu, 49ers taking Campbell. Banks taken by the Cardinals at 13. So I'm just telling you, the Bears, my opinion is I think the Bears are licking their chops. If an offensive lineman slips to them at 10, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears trade up to get an offensive lineman. I think that's, if there's any doubt or whatsoever, that's what the Bears are going to do. Brian says he saw that Milroe accepted an invitation to be in the draft. For what? I don't remember seeing Milroe in the first round of any mock draft. I don't think. Tell me if I'm wrong. Someone, anyone? Don't see it. Let me see. Again, boy, I've been doing this a lot lately. Doing stuff online here. Milroe's average draft position is 45. Well, somebody's got him. So his best ranking is 18th. The Draft Network has got him at 21 to the Steelers. I take it back. Whoever the touchdown wire has him at 13 to the Dolphins. Fox Sports got him 31. Somebody else at Fox Sports has got Milroe at 26. One of the PFF writers has Milroe to the Saints at 9. There you go. So it's possible. Maybe somebody knows something I don't know. Melly Mouse says he believes a team will reach for Jalen Milroe. I don't. I just don't. Although the Colts took Anthony Richardson and what pick number was it? Pick number 5, Gabe, or 4? 4. I mean, so there you go. Charles Broom. If Campbell and Membu are still available at 9, and who do the Saints take? Who do I think they take, or who would I take? Because I have no clue who they would take. I mean, I'm just telling you. I'm not going to be like somebody else and tell you I know something I don't know, because I don't know. I don't know who they would take. I don't know if they would take either one of them. They might do what some of these other people say and take an edge rusher. I hope not. I don't think that's what they would do. I don't know that. But if you're asking me what I would do, Membu has more upside in my opinion, but Campbell is a safer pick in my opinion. I would take Campbell. But we know the Saints don't take a lot of LSU players, so there's that. Mally Mal also says that taking an edge rusher. The Saints take an edge rusher. It'll give them PTSD. No kidding. You know, people joke about how many first-round picks do you need to take an offensive line before you figure out, well, how many first-round picks do you need to dig on your defensive line? That's been way worse. Maybe I need to do all the defensive linemen the Saints have taken in the first round in their history. That would be a good short. That's coming up, doing that. I'm going to go find that. We're going to bring that up. Maybe we'll talk about that on Wednesday show. Can you mark that down, Gabe? And I will and text it to me later so I don't forget. I want to do in history, the defensive linemen the Saints have taken in the first round and the offensive linemen the Saints have taken in the first round in their history. We're going to do that on Wednesday's show. Brian says he's going to be pissed they pass on Campbell. All I would just say is be prepared to be pissed, my friend, because if Campbell's there, I put the percentage at now. It's way better than I'm going to put it at 30%. So that means that's true. They've got to get there. There's probably a 30% chance they take him, a 30% chance that he's already taken. And so there's a 40% chance you'll be pissed. That's just a complete guess. James Choctaw says Tyler Booker's an all-pro guard the next 10 years. And then he's better than Sanders, who had been quarterback 7 in last year's draft. I think might be lower than that. I don't want to take a guard at 9. If they do, again, that would be another thing. They need it, so I'm not going to go off or anything, but that's too high for that, in my opinion. Let's see where Tyler Booker is going in some of these drafts. We gotta go. There it is. All right. His average overall rank is 27th. See, that's why I think it would be a reach. There's multiple mocks that have him going 25th to the Texans. One is 28th to the Lions. I got an 18th. Fantasy Life says to the Seabags. Player Profiler, whoever the hell that is, going to the Dolphins at 13. That's the highest I see. I don't see anyone putting higher than 13 on the mock draft page. So that seems a little bit high. We're about to move on, by the way. We're going to, in just a moment, we're going to give you a little 10-minute, 12-minute preview on tonight's national championship game. I want to talk about Kelvin Sampson for a minute, and then we're going to wrap it up with Saints. It's been a fun Mano E Monday. A lot of interaction this morning. I love it. My prayers, Chad Gage says, my prayers for the Saints' first-round position of need would be offensive line, followed by cornerback, followed by wide receiver, followed by tight end, followed by running back, followed by edge rusher. Calvin, I'm not denying that Tyler Booker isn't a great guard. I just don't think that's where the Saints should be picking there. Again, it's my opinion. That's your opinion. Of course, all this crap is my opinion. Except for what I present to you as other people's opinion. But then you know what that is. Again, we will wrap up the show with Saints today, so don't go anywhere. Also, you don't want to miss. If you have been missing man versus machine, I'm telling you, you do not want to miss man versus machine. Breaking news. I actually saw this earlier. I meant to say it. LSU basketball signs former Bucks executive and LSU player. Remember, small forward, really hustle kind of player. Ronald Dupree is its GM. Breaking news this morning. LSU can use whatever help they can get in men's basketball. Brian says his dream is Campbell, Besh, and Taylor in the first 3 rounds. Okay. I think Besh, you mean Campbell, Taylor, and Besh, because you can't take Besh in the second round at 40. In my opinion. I don't know. I'll give you at some point I will give you what I want to happen, and I'll give you a mock of what I think the Saints are going to do with their first 5 picks. Get 5 picks in the first 4 rounds. But I am going to do at least top 5 hot takes on what I think is going to happen on an NFL draft. Probably won't do it until the week of the draft. Maybe on that Mano E Monday, the Monday before the draft. 2 weeks from today. Before we move on, we told you earlier we'll let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it, you ask? Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world. That's right, around the world. I yelled it. You heard me. They will maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area. Go ahead, check it out. I'll wait. None have their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They're ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. It ain't your mock drafts. It ain't your NCAA brackets. What's really important? I told you this already. That's your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Okay, again, we will be wrapping up the show today with Saints. But first, real quick, I'm going to bring Gabe on in a minute, but man, Florida, Houston tonight. This line is pretty consistent. I saw it come out of DraftKings at 1.5, went to 1, and then Gabe said it's 1.5 almost everywhere else. Money line has pretty much remained constant. I was surprised that Florida came out as the slight, ever so slight favorite at minus 115 in the money line. Houston is minus 105. Game tonight at 7:50 on CBS. The great Iron Eagle is called. I love Iron Eagle, by the way. Not to get off on a tangent, but talking about Saturday night's game, Duke Blue Devils. Somebody's going to have to tell me if they know of a better coaching job than the one Kelvin Sampson put together in the last couple minutes of the Houston Duke game. And I got to say, again, I'm ask Gabe what he thinks in just a minute. But I was talking to my son about this last night, but what was it, about a minute left, down 6, and Duke inbounds the ball, and he decides to not foul. And I'm like, what in the hell are you doing? Turns out that he really did know what the hell he was doing, and I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. They end up getting it back. They go make a crazy 3, get the steal, miss the 3, but the rebound's there for the jam, and it's a 1-point game just like that. Man. James Choctaw wants to know who's going to win the Dattitude pool. Well, let's look it up, because we've been looking up everything else on live radio here. Where is it? Let's see. It looks like if Houston wins, it'll be Cool Reg. Who is Cool Reg? Does there have a name here? No name. Whoever Cool Reg is. If Houston wins, Cool Reg's going to win. If Florida wins, it's going to be Buster McClusterfuster. If either one of you are watching out there right now, let me know you were here. And congratulations. Who Dat Daddy's here finally. Glad you can make it. Where you been? Are we officially on Shedeur Santa's watch? I'm not. I think there's less than 5% chance. I think there's a less than 5% chance that the Saints draft at 9, either get Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart. So is that 2% for each? Whatever way you want to do it. That's my answer on that. All right, time to bring in Gabe. Have you ever seen a better final couple minutes of coaching than what Kelvin Sampson did on Saturday night?
I don't know. I have to think about that. Have I ever seen, witness firsthand? No, probably not.
I'm sure there have been comebacks like that, but the way he managed it, I thought was crazy. And like I said, when he didn't foul, I thought he was nuts, but it worked. And maybe he is nuts. I don't know, but whatever, it worked. And that's just something I think 85% of coaches, he didn't panic. He knew his guys. Nobody knows his guys obviously better than him. That's a dumb statement, but he knew his guys. And for his guys, that was the best thing to do. And I thought it was obviously the right decision. Fantastic. And it worked out.
I'll say one that I didn't get to witness live, but I have gone back and watched it. Jim Valvano in 1983.
Yeah, you should go watch that. Crazy.
No, I have, and funnily enough, it was against Houston.
Yeah, it was.
I say Jim Valvano in the last few minutes of any game, really, during that run. I mean, they were incredible in that run.
Gabe, don't give up. Don't ever give up.
That's probably my favorite speech of all time.
It was pretty good. Pretty good.
It's a damn good speech.
Let's get into this one, and I'm going to come back to this slide in a minute. But today, obviously, and if you haven't seen Man versus Machine, we've been doing it for a few weeks now, but we gave it a reboot. We changed the way we're doing Man versus Machine because we make the rules and we can do that. So we reset the records, and the way we were doing it before last week was the Machine made the pick, and Gabe had to tell us whether he agreed with it or disagreed with it. And I said, you know what? Why are we giving the stupid Machine an advantage? They already have an advantage. They can live 500 years unless we take a hacksaw to them. So we have changed the rules, and now Gabe Henderson makes the pick. And then we'll tell you whether the AI, and we ask, in this case, Grok, what they think of Gabe's pick. So Gabe tells me his pick ahead of time, and then I ask AI, and I will happily, in my best AI voice, with no sarcasm whatsoever, read you the Machine's pick. Man's pick, man today is Gabe Henderson, as it has been since we started this segment. Today is the NCAA championship game, and it's the Houston Cougars, his hometown Houston Cougars, +1 over the Florida Gators. Why did you make this pick?
Houston has one regulation loss all season. Think about that for a second.
Hold on. Okay, I thought about it. Go ahead.
This is arguably, I mean, if they beat Florida here, this is one of the best seasons ever in NCAA history. It might not be pretty. They play a really slow tempo. They have the number 1 rated defense at Ken Palm. But Kelvin Sampson has built a winning formula. And I think coaching is where they have the biggest leg up here. Todd Golden's done a fantastic job, not only winning his first NCAA tournament game this season, but continued winning games. But, I mean, Kelvin Sampson has been doing it forever, and I think that's where the biggest advantage lies. Both teams are experienced. Houston has got experience up and down its roster, from L.J. Cryer, Jawan Roberts, hell, even Tuggle the other day. Can I just give a shout-out to Tuggle real quick?
Yeah.
Because when I saw the technical foul in the inbound, when he reached across and slapped the ball out of the inbounder's hand, I put my head in my hands and what are you doing?
You know what I did?
It's so easy.
I gave Houston the wave. I'm like, ball game. See y'all later. Was I wrong?
So easy for not only him, but the team overall just to fold. Kelvin Sampson fell to his happened.
Yeah.
It would have been so easy to fold.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
It would have been.
And hustle plays later down the.
You're breaking up a little bit. You're breaking up a little bit there. But I want to sorry to interrupt anyway, but I do want to say for those of y'all, I know I got some Saints comments and some questions about Saints. I am going to finish the show in just about 5 minutes. I'm going to come back to Saints, I promise. Hakeem, what's going on? Welcome. I'm glad you're here, even if you are a little late. You want to go back and watch the show. This is a good one, Hakeem. But I got some questions about Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart, in my opinion. If I had to pick one, I'll give my opinion in just a minute, but I want to finish this segment, Man versus Machine. So you got Houston over Florida. You give good reasoning. So what we've been doing here, my pick means nothing. I'll just tell you what I think, and then I'll let you guess what the Machine thinks, and then I will read what the Machine thinks. So I'm with you. I like Houston here too. And look, I hate recency bias, so this is a tough one for me. I have always thought that the winner of the Duke-Houston game, look, I said Duke was going to play Houston from day one. And I always thought that whoever won the Duke-Houston game, I thought it was going to be Duke, but how can you not pick Houston now? I'm surprised that Florida is the slight favorite. Somebody knows something, I guess. But anyway, all that being said, I'm with you here, which is probably bad news for you. I also have Houston. I think Houston wins tonight. So what do you think?
The public is also with us.
What do you
Or
think?
no, the public is against us. Sorry.
What do you think the machine is going to say? Last time you thought you were right, and you thought that you picked Auburn to beat Florida. You were wrong. You thought the machine would pick Florida. You were right. What do you think the machine says today? I have not shown you this.
I can't. What machine did you use? Did you use Grok?
I used Grok because ChatGPT has been very iffy, spotty answering. It doesn't want to answer my gambling questions a lot lately.
Full transparency, I don't feel great answering this question and making a pick because I know the answer, because I've edited an article from earlier at work knowing what ChatGPT picked. What did
ChatGPT pick?
ChatGPT picked Houston to win 77-71. So I would imagine Grok is similar, and then they have Houston, but I could be wrong.
Well, here's why Houston has absolutely zero chance to win tonight, and you should go bet on Florida. Because Gabe likes Houston, I like Houston, and the machine likes Houston. And the machine, its reasoning, as I have been doing here, I will read the Monday machine. Houston's elite defense is the standout factor. They just held Duke, a team with the most efficient offense in Ken Pom history, to 67 points, closing with a 9-0 run. Florida's offense, led by Walter Clayton Jr., is explosive, but Houston's physicality and slow pace, bottom 10 nationally, could neutralize it. Post on X and expert picks lean toward Houston's defensive edge in a tight game with predictions like 71-66 or 67-65. Gabe likes Houston. Jim likes Houston. The machine likes Houston. Go bet on Florida. Just saying. Anyway.
Hey, you know what? I will, although I did get Friday's pick wrong, I will pat myself on the back because I did mention that the two best values on the board were Walter Clayton and LJ Cryer to win most outstanding player. They are now the two favorites, by the way.
Okay. There you go. Interesting also, as I look here before we wrap up the segment and finish it up with Saints. Gabe, I mentioned this to you before we went on the air, but the over-under has changed. It changed in I typed it in, and 10 minutes later it was different. It has gone down. So the big money is betting on the under here. They like a lower scoring game.
Yeah.
In fact, Grok said its alternative pick, if it didn't pick Houston, it would have picked the under.
I have some insights from BetMGM earlier. I know it's not the same line, but 61% of the money was on the under.
So. Okay. There you go. Sean wants to know where I would rank Houston's final comeback for all time. Man, I tell you, look, it's hard to go through all the games you've seen in your life. And I know a lot of times you'll say, man, that's the best one I've ever seen. Then you remember a couple of days later, or what about this one? Or someone reminds you. I mean, look, Duke's come back and Christian Laettner beating Kentucky. It wasn't in the final. It was in a regional semifinal. Yeah, Elite Eight. So wasn't the same. I've seen some, don't get me wrong, but I'll just say, so I don't want to use recency bias and say it was the best I've ever seen, but I will say this. I don't know how anyone, and I know I'm giving Kelvin Sampson showering him with praise, but I don't know how else not to. I don't know how anyone else could have done a better job than Kelvin Sampson did Saturday night in that game. That team never gave up. There was so many times when a lesser experienced team and a younger team probably would have given up with the same talent, and they just didn't. And I don't know how you're down 14 to the best team in college basketball. Unquestionably, Duke's the best team in college basketball. Sorry, they are. Duke will be back next year, but not Houston.
To point this out, I just don't think that's true.
They're going to lose a lot of people. I mean,
Houston?
Yeah. No. Duke's going to lose a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Saying
I thought
Houston,
you were talking about the comment. You're breaking up. Yeah, breaking up.
Back next year.
Oh, okay. I caught the tail end of it. You're breaking up kind of bad right now. I hear you. Maybe we'll have a debate on that after the game. We can talk about it Wednesday. I'm sure we'll talk about it in some.
I think they will. Kelvin Sampson has
regardless
turned into a well-oiled machine.
Regardless, all of that being said, just because I think Duke's the best team, I think Kelvin Sampson's the best coach. So there you go. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. All right, I will talk to you on Wednesday. we'll talk more about this, I'm sure. And we're going to talk Masters with Scott Rabelais. Who knows? Maybe you'll have, I don't know how you would do a golf pick.
I mean, I have a Masters pick that I like.
All right. Well, I don't. That's kind of unfair to make that a pick, but maybe I don't know. We'll work it out. Man versus machine should be interesting on Wednesday as well. I'll see you Wednesday.
Alrighty.
All right. Again, we're going to wrap up the show here with Saints this morning. I guess, one thing that Gabe's definitely got a point about, and I only caught the tail end of what he said there, but it's tough to say one team is better than another one if one team's going home and the other one isn't, right? I mean, that's what we use as a gauge. UBN says he's just going to play the machine versus Gabe from Masters. Okay. Who that daddy? Agrees. Great coaching. Charles says they recruit better than Houston. Gabe says Houston has the number 2 recruiting class in the country next year. No slouch. Yeah, what and what. All right. Let's go. Let's finish the show. If you got some Saints comments or questions, you got about 5 to 7 minutes before we go off the air. We're going to wrap up the show. We're at just shy of the 142 mark right now on our live show. I'm going to close this thing out at 150 or before. Let's see. What else? What did I want to go see? Jay Tucker Rafferty says, Shador is going to fall. You can just see it coming. Maybe. What else we got? Charles says that Kelvin Sampson looks 79 instead of 69. He did the other night. I just love the way his body, everything, body language, everything. Walt Crawford says if Sanders is available at 6, the Saints will trade up and take him. I'll bet you a donut that they don't. Again, I've been through this. If the Saints trade up to draft Shador Sanders, they're just incredibly insane. And I know that y'all can make your jokes and Mickey Loomis sucks and blah, blah, whatever. That would be absolute. Y'all are so the only people that are for this kind of thing. Same thing I said last week and the week before that. Literally the only people that would be for something like this is they hate Derek Carr that much. They can't wait a year to get rid of Derek Carr, or especially can't wait 2 years. They want to go just because next year is a better draft class for quarterbacks, and the Saints would be much better served no matter where they're drafted next year to get a quarterback next year. They don't want to wait that long. Oh, no, don't want to wait. I hate Derek Carr too much. I don't see the Saints being impatient. I don't think the Saints are going to draft Shador Sanders if he's available at 9, much less trade up to get him. I just don't. And that's going to be I'm telling you. I'm telling you now, we don't have a show the day after the first round. If we do, it would have to be in the afternoon. So maybe we'll have maybe I'll do a live pregame show if I can. I don't know what's going on, but I know the day after the draft, remember I did a field trip for my daughter a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, whatever it was. I got another one. I've got to do this. Okay, so I cannot do a live show on the day after the draft, at least not in the morning. We may find a way to do one in the afternoon, but I'll sit here and tell you I'm wrong if I'm wrong, but I ain't wrong. I just in the how funny that's going to be. We open ourselves up to the Who Dat Nation, the Who Dat family. I'm telling you right now, maybe half of them will go insane if the Saints don't draft Shador Sanders if he's available at 9. I'm telling you. Not all of them. A lot of them won't, but a lot of them will. It'll be funny. It'll be hilarious, actually. Let's see. What else we got? Earl's picks. If I had to pick one, if you're making me pick one, you're going to make me pick one. I can't say neither, right? If I had to pick one, who would I pick? Shador Sanders or Jackson Dart? Man, that's tough. I guess Ugh, I don't know. I think Jackson Dart probably fits Kellen Moore's system a little bit better. So I would probably go Jackson Dart, but I really don't want either one of them. I got to be honest. I just don't. I will say this. If somehow, and I know this would never happen, but if somehow the Saints picked at 40 and they were both there, and then the Saints would almost be forced to pick one of them, then I would definitely say Dart. So I guess I would have to say Dart earlier. I think if they were going to pick one in the first round, it makes way more sense to pick Sanders because he's higher rated. There's no way Dart could potentially make it to 40. No way in hell Sanders does. So in that sense, you would take, I know it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I guess this is my long-winded answer saying neither. I don't think either one of those guys is going to be an NFL quarterback. I just don't. Who that daddy says, if Shedeur is there at 9, he guarantees that Moore doesn't pass him up. I think you're wrong. Again, and sorry, I got my leg caught up in a cord here. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to draft a quarterback. You're not spending the money you're spending on a quarterback that you're probably tied. Whether you want to hear it or not, whether you want to believe it or not, I told you he wasn't going I told you Carr wasn't going anywhere months ago this year, and you didn't believe me, and you kept coming up with all this crap. And I kept telling you he wasn't going anywhere. And now I'm telling you he's probably not going anywhere in 2026 either. This would have to be a complete and utter disaster shit show for Derek Carr to go anywhere this year. You don't want to hear it. I'm just telling you reality. If you want a show that isn't based in reality and is based on what you want to hear, then go find another one. This ain't it. Based on reality, Derek Carr is not going anywhere likely until after the 2026 season. So why would you go and spend a first-round pick right now on a guy that's not a generational talent? You wouldn't. Shedeur Sanders is not a generational talent, in my opinion. Again, cut this out. Throw it back at me. I'll be glad to tell you I'm wrong if I'm wrong. Wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong. Won't be the last time I'm wrong. There you go. He hates Carr. I know you hate Carr. That's why you guarantee that Shedeur Sanders wouldn't be passed up. It's not because you think Kellen Moore won't pass him up. No, you're guaranteeing in your own mind for your own sanity. I get it. If you hate Derek Carr that much, you'll tell your mind will convince you that anything can happen. Your mind will convince you that they're going to trade for Michael Penix will be traded and the Falcons will stick with Kirk Cousins. If you wanted to believe it bad enough, you can make yourself believe it. Not happening. I just don't see it. Doesn't make sense. Saints list of Saints priorities right now. Quarterback. If you say there are 10 positions on a football team, and I'm just, you could argue that edge is a bit, whatever. You could argue there are 8 positions. Some could argue there's 9. Some would say it's 10, whatever. If you put them in order of need, the Saints need a quarterback is way lower. It's much closer to the bottom than it is to the top. That's why it does make zero sense to draft a quarterback in the first round of this draft. Again, it might even be different if there were quarterbacks that were like, this is a great quarterback draft. It might make a difference. I don't think it would make a difference. But at least I could understand it more. It definitely doesn't make it in a draft like this when Cam Ward wouldn't be better than, let's say, Michael Penix, who was the 5th quarterback taken in last year's draft? 4th, 5th? I don't know, whatever it was. You're not doing it. This doesn't make any sense. Charles says Moore better pass him up O-line first. Who that daddy says, I figured him out. I'm not trying to be, I get it. I understand. Just because I don't agree with you there, I understand where you're coming from. I understand why people don't like Derek Carr or quote unquote hate Derek Carr. Shouldn't hate Derek Carr. I mean, it's ridiculous to hate someone. I mean, hate means so many really bad things. Let's don't hate anyone. It's like when people tell me I hate so-and-so. There are very few people in this world that I hate. And all of the people that I hate, I can't say all, just about all. It doesn't make any sense to hate someone you've never met. It's ridiculous. Say you dislike. Can we say that? Charles Mangus, he better be gone in 26. Not going to be gone in 26. I think I'm going to put you know how I like to put percentages on stuff? I say that there is a 70, and I'll probably up this later. I say there's a 70% chance that Derek Carr is the starting quarterback of this football team on opening day in 2026. 70. I think the only chance that is if everything completely falls apart, or if he's just that injured, which I don't think is going to happen, or, I mean, things will really legitimately have to really fall apart. Now, I do think the Saints will go get a quarterback in the offseason of the 2025, well, I guess the 26 offseason. This time next year, I think that we'll be talking about what quarterback will the Saints draft. You can hold it to me. I was right last time. I'm going to be right about this too. Common sense. Common sense is right about 80 to 90% of the time. Just saying. Common sense doesn't always make it, but you don't restructure a contract. You're not going to eat $65 million or whatever they're going to have to eat next year. There's an excellent chance that the Saints restructure Carr's contract again next year and then eat whatever is left over, I'm guessing 30-ish million in 27, then eat 60-something million next year. And here's 0%. You want a 0.0? 0.0 chance they spend 60 whatever million on Derek Carr and then he's not starting in 26. 0.0. You don't pay that kind of money to a quarterback and let him ride the bench. It doesn't happen. It only happens if you're a Kirk Cousins type and you go into December and you suck that bad, and Derek Carr, don't like him, whatever you don't want to like, he doesn't suck that bad. He's not going to suck that bad. You don't pay that kind of money for a quarterback and then start a season with him on your bench. It doesn't happen. There you go. Who dat daddy? I can live with that. You don't hate Carr personally, you hate his quarterback play. All right, though. Let me ask you this question. Be honest with me. How many times you watching a game, he does something you don't like, and you go, I hate that son of a bitch. Come on. Come on. I know. Brian Cavett, if they draft O-line correctly, Carr won't get injured. Correct. Brian Cavett, quarterback is ahead of only long snapper, place kicker, punter, and center. That's pretty close. Sean, we weren't calling Mahomes generational talent when he was drafted. You might not have been. Sean Payton did his best to make sure that he got Patrick Mahomes, and he got sniped by Andy Reid. So I know Sean Payton thought he was a generational talent, because I can promise you, Sean Payton wasn't trying to get Patrick Mahomes with a first-round draft pick with Drew Brees still here if he didn't think he was a generational talent. So speak for yourself, pal. And I know I was like, man, I don't know. Anyway. All right, I think we got to wrap it up for today. We got plenty more time to talk about this. Draft is 2 weeks from Thursday. Let me tell you what's coming up in the near future. Again, Wednesday will be about half Saints and half Masters. And to show you that I don't understand math, whatever's left over besides those two halves, we'll probably talk a little bit LSU since Rab is here. Scott Rabelais, columnist for The Advocate, is in Augusta, or will be in Augusta by the time he comes on the show. So we'll give you our thoughts on Masters. I'm going to try to get UBN and give me his predictions. Friday will be almost all NFL. Mostly Saints. We'll probably talk more about mock drafts. We'll talk about more Saints possibilities. I don't know who my guests will be yet. Maybe Larry Holder. We'll see. Next week's going to be a weird week. Next week, it's possible we only have a show on Monday and Friday. I know we're not going to have a show a week from Wednesday. My wife has a procedure that I need to be there for. It is related to things we talked about in the past. If any of you are regulars and know, if you don't, then Just know it's a medical procedure I need to be there for. That is a week from Wednesday. So Monday may not be a Mano E Monday next. We'll see. Or maybe I'll do a show on a Tuesday or Thursday. We'll see how it goes. And then so next week's going to be all NFL draft. I mean, of course, I'll touch on stuff in the pregame dat chat on other things that are going on, but it's going to be pretty much all NFL, all Saints going forward. Charles, I see you got a comment about the Pels. I'm bringing my daughters to the Pels game on Friday night. Just not much to talk about with them right now. I'm not wasting space on the New Orleans Pelicans right now. I'm just not. So that's where we are. And then obviously the week after that will be all Saints draft. We may have shows. We may do the week of the draft. We may do a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday show that week. We'll see. Maybe that's how we'll make up for the missed show on a week from Wednesday. I also want to remind you, again, I told y'all earlier about this. Check out, if you're on TikTok, make sure you go subscribe to our TikTok page. I know that sounds crazy. I know a lot of you, people that are my age, you don't do TikTok. I get it. It's okay if you don't. You can see the same shorts. I run them both on TikTok and YouTube. I haven't really been using Instagram only because, I don't know, something happened. I couldn't get in there, and then I just kind of let it go, and nobody was looking at it anyway. So TikTok and YouTube, and sometimes I'll put it on my Facebook Reels page. You can go subscribe to my Facebook page as well if you like Facebook. But check out our shorts. Again, you'll want to see, I'm going to do some going in the future. I'm going to start doing rankings of things. Showing you the top, not top, but the last short that I did yesterday, put together from Friday's show, all 24 Saints quarterbacks that they have drafted. Give the show a like, by the way. If you haven't hit the like button, please do right now before we go off the air. Yeah, so that was the last short I did. Man, it's just sad. So Gabe and I at some point are going to do a show. We're added to our list. We got a list. We got a list of summer shows. I don't know how long. What do we got? About 10 things on that list by now? Got to be. Maybe more than that. But we're going to add, we're going to start doing Saints rankings. We're going to do NFL rankings of, we'll tell you how many defensive linemen the Saints have drafted in their history in the first round, how many offensive linemen they've drafted. We're going to do a show on top 32, not top 32, but rankings from 1 to 32 teams and what they've done with quarterback in the draft in their history. We were saying the Saints were 32, but somebody said the Seahawks, and we started saying stuff that the Seahawks did, and I don't think the Saints are 32 now. I think the Seahawks might be 32. That'll be a fun show. That's coming up after the draft at some point in the near future. We'll have fun with it. All right. And Wednesday, we'll also have man versus machine. We're going to, I don't know. You know what we'll do? I'll tell you what we'll do, Gabe. You'll give me your master's pick. I'll get Grok's pick or ChatGPT or whatever, the machine's pick. And somebody will be 1-0. Somebody will get it right. Somebody will be wrong. Whoever's better in the Masters will get the point. Whoever is worse, obviously, gets the offer. We'll see if UB ends on or whatever. That will wrap it up for us on this Monday. Anyway, you don't want to miss man versus machine. I'm telling you, I need to start making shorts of this and putting it up. In fact, as soon as I'm done here today, maybe I'll put that up. We will want to thank today's guest. Oh, that's what I want to do. That's easy. Gabe Henderson, and you were our guest on Mano E Monday. Again, Wednesday, Scott Rabelais, potentially UBN. We'll see what his schedule's like. A reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page if you haven't done so already. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live, and give us a like. Build us up. Build us up, Buttercup. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And you can always find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. You can find me on bet.NOLA.com. Find our Saints insiders on NOLA.com/sports/Saints. UBN's going to keep warm. Y'all all keep warm. Put your sweatshirts on. You can put them back up after this week's over, I promise. Until then, until Wednesday, we'll see you later. Take care. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.